Hello my beautiful friends and welcome back to our channel, and today's video where I'm talking about 3 lies that I believed for far too long that once cleaned up with coaching have resulted in so much more empowerment and control in my life. These lies are so common. I'm willing to bet, put some money on, 99% of you have all of these 3 lies in your brain as well, unless you've had some coaching of course, in which case you probably still, like me, have to actively work to unlearn, undo and deprogram these perspectives to stop them from influencing your behaviors and your results, your experience in your life. So, very high yield topic, listen carefully, be open, and let's get into it. So, very high yield topic, and remember, I don't expect you, need you, want you to change your mind all in once in one video, just like that. But instead, I just want to offer these different perspectives that otherwise might not be a part of your life at all. We're all socialized into certain thought patterns and perspectives in the world without necessarily voluntarily opting into it. And I know it's always been useful in my life to be able to see, consider, have offered another perspective, another way of looking at things, another way for me to make decisions from. Let's get into it. So the 3 lies that we're talking about today are: 1, other people can hurt my feelings. 2, you shouldn't let people disrespect you. And 3, boundaries are how you get control in your relationships, romantic or otherwise. All right, number 1, and gosh, this one took me a long time to come around to. I reckon I heard this and was reading on it and considering this for probably at least a year before it really clicked with me and before I really started to believe it and take it on. And only then, when I started to take it on and put it into my life, did I start to see the possibility of this thought. And then it took much more time of actually implementing to really take it on, believe it on that next level. So the reason that no one can hurt your feelings is because your emotions all come from thoughts. And not anybody's thoughts. Your emotions come from only your own thoughts. Somebody saying something mean to you doesn't automatically result in you feeling a negative emotion or having an emotion that is hurtful, uncomfortable for you. When somebody says something to you, it has to be filtered through your brain and your thoughts first. So I think one of the best ways to appreciate this concept and see how it works in real life is to use an example of when somebody says something that is meant to be hurtful towards you perhaps, or that some people would consider hurtful. But if your opinion doesn't line up, if you don't agree with what they're saying, instead of you feeling hurt by their opinion, by whatever hurtful thing they're thinking about you, your reaction will probably instead be something like, curious, that's weird, I wonder why they're saying that. That's not true, I wonder why they think that. An example of this that I like to use was if I was standing in front of an Olympic swimmer and I decided to tell them that I thought, in my opinion, they're a terrible swimmer. Sure, my statement has the potential to be hurtful. I'm probably not saying that with very good intentions, but that's not the point. The point is that the swimmer, the Olympic swimmer, is like, I just won gold in the Olympics, lady. What are you talking about? This is ridiculous. You're hilarious. Why would you think that? Their feelings aren't hurt because my insult, my hurtful statement isn't conducive with what they believe and what they think. So this is the filter that other people's opinions has to go through first to be able to hurt your feelings. And that is why no one else has the power to hurt your feelings. Yes, what other people do, what other people say, can remind you of thoughts that create hurtful feelings in yourself, thoughts that you believe. But it's not them, it's not these people that you need to control, it's not their opinions that you need to change. If it's a problem for you to have that hurt emotion, then the target is not controlling others' opinions. The target is looking into your opinions of yourself. Why these thoughts are hurtful to you. This is wonderful news. You do not need to control the world. And you have all the answers in yourself, everything you need to feel better in yourself already. Lie number 2. You shouldn't let people disrespect you. I think these are getting progressively controversial as we go forward. So this statement sounds very reasonable, very true, and like a useful value to have and to filter through what you do and don't do in your life with, right? You shouldn't let people disrespect you. The respect is a big, important word in our society, and I've just broken it down, gone to Google, and respect means to have due regard or to give due regard to the subject or the situation. So the word respect and then even the definition of respect are very vague, really. And having respect or regard for someone is gonna always be related to somebody's values in themselves. Two people standing next to each other, you could say, you should respect each other. That really quite needs to be qualified, doesn't it? Because if these two people have wildly differing values, sure, they might be able to respect the fact that each other have opposite, opposing values, but are they gonna respect the values themselves that the other people hold and why they're holding them? Very interesting to think about. But let's zoom in now, get a little bit less meta and go into your life. If you're in a situation with another person or a group of people that do not respect you in your interpretation, or perhaps they frankly told you that, and in that situation, you take on the opinion, they shouldn't disrespect me or they should respect me. How much power does that statement, that perspective, actually give you? How useful is that actually to you? Because here's the thing, people are allowed to have their own opinions, right? You're allowed to have whatever opinion you want. You're entitled to your own opinion. And of course, your opinion is informed by your own personal values. And most of us will agree, everyone is entitled to their own set of values, and only they, as an individual, can decide on what those values are. We don't usually go around asking people to change their values, but we do seem to more easily go around telling people that they should have different opinions. So let's just say this person has decided that they don't respect you. They disrespect you. That is their interpretation, perception, opinion. And in your opinion, they are wrong. They are wrong for not respecting you, and they're therefore wrong in their reasoning for not respecting you, their opinion. So firstly, I just want us to have a compassionate, curious look about how that situation is a little bit hypocritical. Here, we are telling people that they should respect us in all of our values and all of our opinions. And in doing so, we're telling them that their values, their opinions are invalid. Their decision to disrespect us was wrong. Do you see what I mean here? Now next, and here's where the real empowerment and illusion of control comes. Say you do decide that their opinion is wrong and they should think differently, that they should not disrespect you, that they should respect you. Now, what are you gonna do about it? It is fun and interesting to think about how people are entitled or not to their own opinions and values and why. But ultimately, the truth of the world is that people are walking around having their own opinions all the time, and there is nothing that you can do about it. Sure, there are small windows with certain people who are open and willing. They are willing of their own agency to think differently. But there's also a lot of people, or even the same people, who are willing to think differently in one context who are not willing to think differently in another context in this time period. If people don't want to change their mind, if people don't want to think differently, if people don't want to change their opinion, then there is nothing you can do about it. People can and will have their own opinions, even if that opinion is that they disrespect you. So here's what you can do about it. Ultimately, the only way that you can have respect guaranteed in your life is to have respect for yourself. And the kind of respect that is unwavering, that isn't easily shaken and changed by other people's opinions. And for that, you're probably gonna have to do a lot of analysis and reflection of your life. Why do you think that you're worthy of respect and regard? There's no right or wrong here, but it's just about finding something solid, something that feels true and real for you. And also in that path, you might discover some things that you don't like about yourself and you don't think warrant respect, and therefore some things that you might want to change in your life, and that's really fruitful. The only person you can rely on respect from is from yourself. You can't rely on others. But here's the thing. If others' respect is important to you, it's worth noting that you do teach people how to treat you. What you think about yourself informs people what they should think about you too. So while I don't want it to be the most important thing to you that other people respect you, I do respect that we are social creatures and the other people in our lives are important to us. I think that's just human nature and not something that we can change or necessarily even want to change. But what I don't want is for this lie to be perpetuated such that It throws you off track. It influences your behavior. You go chasing the wrong thing, other people's respect, instead of spending time on what's most important, your own respect for yourself, your own opinion of yourself. Finally, the last line is boundaries get you control in your relationships. So I understand the excitement around boundaries, and I do agree it's a very empowering thing, but boundaries aren't a magical wand for control. And I want to get really clear about what boundaries are and aren't. Because when we think about boundaries the wrong way, if we think that they're a tool to get control in our relationships and with other people, then we are still missing out with this misinterpretation on so many different levels. So I use boundaries very sparingly in my life. And that's because I know that for every boundary I set, there is a cost of following through in that boundary for me, usually. So a boundary is not manipulating or demanding that somebody else does something. A boundary is purely within yourself. It doesn't even need to be communicated necessarily to the other person or the people or group involved. It's just something for yourself, a commitment to yourself, to take care of yourself, to prevent yourself from hurt or harm in the situation. A boundary is not something that somebody else does when the boundary is crossed. A boundary is what you do when the boundary is crossed. So in my life, that usually looks like removing myself physically from the situation. That's it. There certainly are going to be other exceptions, and I actually can't bring any to mind at the moment, but by and large, this is what a boundary result looks like for me. And you know, if I was in that greater situation in the first place, and there was one thing that was a threat of hurt or harm, or actual hurt or harm to me, it's likely that it's only one smaller part of the situation. And I was probably in that situation as a whole because I wanted some other things out of the situation. And that's what I mean by the boundary comes at a cost. There are things that I'm missing out on when I choose to follow through with that boundary and remove myself. So boundaries were never meant to be a magic wand for getting whatever you want. They're a tool for keeping you safe. And they're also a tool as well for teaching people how to treat you. Our words can fall flat with people because other people have their own agendas and wants and needs. And a lot of people will push those agendas and wants and needs despite what you might have communicated you wanted. So it's really important not only for your self-respect, but also for your integrity in the relationships to actually follow through with the boundary once it's been set. It's important for trust in the relationship and people understanding and your word having meaning. It's also important for your trust in yourself, to know that you'll set a commitment to yourself and follow through with it, that you will take care of yourself and you'll make your safety and your self-care a high priority. So the reason why I use boundaries sparingly is not because my life is sunshine and rainbows and easy and all situations are lovely, but instead because what I would rather spend my time and energy on and what I believe I can ultimately work towards and I'm always capable of improving is reducing the amount of situations, circumstances, events that can cause me hurt or harm, i.e. to become more resilient. Needless to say, there are some things in life, take physical or verbal assault, for example, that I don't want to, and I don't want you to become resilient to, right? There are certain situations that you just set a boundary and you're out. But what I mean is more for things like in those first few sections that we talked about, where we're misinterpreting people's ability to hurt our feelings or to disrespect us. When instead, if we could analyze our thinking and analyze what's happening with our emotional regulation, with wherever this hurt is coming from, then we don't have to be hurt in these situations. We can be genuinely, perfectly fine in these situations that might have otherwise hurt you in an earlier time or somebody else in the same time. So for example, if you walk into a family event and somebody says, "Gosh, you put on weight." This happened to me when I was like 15. I was hurt by that. That sent me into this spiral and turmoil. And this person didn't think much of it. Probably he thought he was just sharing out the facts. He wasn't even necessarily being malicious, but more just careless. Now, in that situation, I suffered for days on end after that. And the reason that hurt me so much was because A, I cared so much about being overweight. It was a morally bad thing to me back then, which it isn't now. And secondly, because I believed what he said. It wasn't him and what he said that hurt my opinion. He just reminded me of what I believed and reinforced what I believed and validated what I believed, or that negative thing that I believed. And so that hurt my feelings. Now, if somebody was to comment on my weight, it wouldn't be something that would hurt my feelings because I don't have conducive thoughts with that. And it goes the same way. I don't think you can have this just one way or the other, but what I mean by this is if somebody was to give me a compliment on my weight, I don't hold that in any different regard to if somebody was to give me an insult. I don't hold that in any different weight compared to if somebody was to insult me regarding my weight. And that really is the key. Separating out other people's opinions from your own opinion from yourself, whether it's good or bad. And again, we are still human, we are social, these things will have some influence on us and the potential to influence us always. But really what I'm talking about here is the self-awareness and the emotional regulation that actually puts you back in control. If you can control your internal world and how you're processing, taking in information and making decisions, then suddenly you don't need to control the external world anymore. And this is really what all of these 3 lies are about to me. It's this lie that all these things that are happening out in the world that are out of our control need to be controlled by us. And that is such a poor use of our energy and attention in the world that could otherwise be directed to the more useful place internally to actually get the outcome that we want. That sense of control in our lives. It's not the idea that you can control the world. It's the idea that you can control yourself, that you can have certainty and trust in yourself. And that to me is what confidence is. So while I don't want it to be the most important thing to you that other people respect you, I do respect that we are social creatures. I think that's just human nature and not something that we can change or necessarily even want to change. Now remember, these are perspectives and lenses that we'd look through our whole lives, things that have been socialized into us. For example, back in the schoolyard, how many times would you have heard, be careful what you say, don't say that, you're gonna hurt their feelings. So take your time with this, let the concepts roll over and just see what you think. Get a bit curious if you have the willingness and capacity to consider something new in your life. If you can get to this place, even considering these different perspectives, I know how empowering and life-changing these will be from my personal experience. Not only from my personal experience, but now being able to see it in my clients too. I hope you enjoyed this one. I'm looking forward to the discussion down below and I'll see you guys in my next one.